Okay, so welcome everybody to the CS5311B class for February 20th. How's everyone doing here? We have a lot of people online, a lot of people coming into the class. So this week we are going to do one of the core classes of this class, which is how do you create a contact form for a website, right? Which involves creating a form, getting data from that form, from the user entering it, into packaging it up in JavaScript and sending it to a server, and having that server do something with it. With a contact form, at a minimum, that'll probably typically be sending an email. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to let somebody enter a form, enter information into a form, and that's going to propagate an email, which is a typical contact form behavior, right? Has anyone done this for a website before? Nobody has done this. With PHP, or has anyone done it without PHP?
I think I did
just HTML. Well, how do you send email with HTML? So a couple of people have done this, but they forgot how they did it. In general, there are ways to send email using, without using a server processing language, but in general, they're probably limited. Those ways of doing it are probably limited. You're probably relying on the local email, like using a mail to link or something like that to send the email. Right? So that's not really necessarily a contact form, in the sense that it doesn't really get processed. You're not capturing any information. So today we'll go through how to kind of create a server-based client-server contact form. And while we're doing this, we're going to learn a bunch of techniques that we'll use again and again throughout this class, and that you'll use again and again once you learn what they are. The whole concept of creating a client-server assistant. So there's some talk back and forth between one of the students and I in the last couple of days about the "how old are you" form that we built a couple of weeks ago. And remember how we intermingled PHP and HTML, and that was kind of fun and it was kind of easy. And in one document, we got a self-processing form that actually does something on the server. But it's very difficult to program that, as you can imagine. And somebody in our class, actually, we could look at what you did in our code. But unless you get the PHP and the HTML intermingled perfectly, you're either going to get a form that doesn't process, because the PHP is not self-processing, it's not syntactically correct, or you get an HTML document either that doesn't render like you expect, or that doesn't validate because you have tags or elements that open and don't close, or in this case it was closed and don't open. So not that that method was wrong, it's just sort of not it's not really the professional way of doing so, because once you get into anything more involved than enter your birthday and how old are you, your page is going to get way more complex than you're going to be able to handle it. So what we're going to do today is separate the PHP and put that where it belongs. Not in a page, but in a program that runs only on the server and never really presents information to the user. We're going to use purely HTML to present information to the user. And the magic glue between them is going to be written in JavaScript. JavaScript can sort of act as the intermediary. It's a programming language that runs in the browser and could take data that's coming back, being returned or sent to the PHP program, and get it to interact with the page. So that's the technique we're going to learn today. We're going to learn how to do a client-server request to PHP and how to do so in the right way. Not that, like I said, the other way isn't necessarily bad. I mean, there's a lot of PHP programs that are written that way, but it's not necessarily easy to maintain. number one. And there's another big drawback with that method. And what is that? If you remember, when we process, remember that self-processing page, and let me bring it up. I'll bring up an example of it. I think it's a yes. How's that? So, student center, and I think I posted it like lesson 2, maybe? No? What did I call it? Let's see, maybe I put it right here. Okay, so let's look at how this works, right? I pick a date. Let's pick, something back in, go back 18 years or whatever, and submit that. So I went back 29 years. So I interacted with the page, and behind the scenes, what happened when I interacted with the page? It executed some code on the server, but the page that was there is gone, in essence, and a new page has replaced it. When you process a page using the post or get with a submit button, it processes the page. And in this case, it's one document, but there's actually 2 pages. They just split up by PHP. You could do the same type of effect with 2 different documents. And in your form where it says action, you would put the second PHP document, and that would take you automatically to the next page when the form was processed and submitted. But the problem with both of those methods is that ultimately, by processing the form, your old page is gone and a new page replaces it. And that's kind of old school if you think about it. we try not to do that in more modern websites. Does that make sense? So number one, it could be for speed. It's mainly for usability and usefulness, right? So think about it. A contact form is just a small part of your page, and it might be on your home page, and you might have many, many other elements of those things on that page. When somebody submits that contact form, do you want to go out and refresh that whole page? So many PHP and other server-oriented programmed systems, like Kate, for example, every time you make you probably don't use Kate a lot, but when you take tests in Kate, every time you submit one question, a whole page refreshes. You know what I mean? And you go to the next page, which is the next question. So every interaction is a page submit that the server then interprets, processes, and responds to. In the technique we're going to learn today, which is called, does anyone kind of take a guess of what it's called? Some of you guys have worked with this before. It's called Ajax. Asynchronous JavaScript and XML is what it stands for. That acronym is a little outdated, but the concept is that instead of getting data to the server by sending the page as a whole HTTP request for a new page, what Ajax allows you to do is make an HTTP request from within an existing page without having to refresh or call another page. And that's why it's an asynchronous JavaScript call, as opposed to synchronous, although, like I said, that acronym is a little outdated. So let's try to do this again. When I process this button, the whole form kind of changes, and it sends information to the server and returns another page to the server. But if you look at a typical Ajax program, the program doesn't really change. And what we could do is look at our class website, which is an Ajax website. So if we go to santarosa.edu, if we go to our class webpage, And we got to sign in. Okay, now if I do something like click from one lesson to another, that's going to the server and getting information and bringing it back down, but it's not changing the page. It's just changing the data that changed in the elements on the page because the data changed. Does that make sense? The URL is exactly the same, number one, and we're not really changing. If you look at the information that's static on the page like this, it literally doesn't change. That element doesn't go away. It's not like it's refreshed by a new page. So Ajax 1, stop doing that. 1, as somebody said, it makes things run faster because you're not networking as much. But 2, it makes for a cleaner interface. Each widget can interact with a server. Or just a part of your page, or just one button or one form on your page can interact with the server without having to refresh the whole page. And Ajax is, that technique is probably one of the more important web techniques that have come, that we use now in the last like 2 or 3 years. In other words, this is the proper way to do this type of thing. When you can, you should use Ajax. It's just a better approach. It might be a little bit more complex, but we're going to learn how to do that today. Okay? What it requires, though, is a new programming language called JavaScript, because Ajax is typically implemented in JavaScript. In fact, it's always implemented in JavaScript. It's asynchronous JavaScript and XML, so you're always using it with JavaScript. All you're doing, really, I'll show you how to code it in a minute, but all you're really doing is, how do you make an HTTP request typically on a web page? How do you typically make an HTTP request on a web page? I'm sorry? A link, very good. In other words, if there's a link on the page, it would, like this is a link that's taking us to a totally different page, right? Or this is, this isn't taking us to a totally different page, but this is obviously taking us to a whole different page. In fact, a whole different website, whole different domain or subdomain, right? So, and that's an HTTP request, correct. Another way we do it is right here in the address bar. Every time you type something in the address bar and hit enter, that's an HTTP request. HTTP is Hypertext Transport Protocol. It's the networking application that turns a URL into a request for a document. And what Ajax does is allow you to do that from within a page without having to do it through a link or a address bar request, which is by its nature synchronous. It's going to replace one page with another. Ajax allows you to make that call programmatically using programming, using JavaScript, and it does so in the existing context of the current page without refreshing the page. Okay? So, any questions before we get started on this tutorial? Any questions about anything?
So is there anything replacing Ajax or kind of...
Is there anything replacing Ajax? No, not really. Ajax is sort of state-of-the-art way at this point. There are features coming in JavaScript that allow you to, there are some features in JavaScript that are being defined, they're not quite there yet, that might make Ajax more efficient and easier to work with. So like web sockets is a way to, or web workers is a way to multi-thread network connections or processes. So if you're making an Ajax request that's going to return, 3 years of transactions to a page. You might want to parallelize those out. So there are tools that are coming to improve Ajax. But at this point, Ajax is pretty much state of the art. So what you're learning now is not going to be eclipsed by something new. It'll probably be improved incrementally by better ways of doing it. Some of which might not apply to you, they might apply to you only if you build kind of commercial strength web applications, like Wells Fargo transaction services and things like that, or any bank. I just use them. I got to make money somehow, so I add these little product placements in here occasionally, just to supplement teachers' income. So anyway, so any other questions before we get started with this? So what we're going to do essentially today is take the form that we worked on last week, which is that Gardner's web page form with the little wavy thing. Did anyone watch that video with the wavy canvas thing? What was that?
I couldn't really see the code because it was
Yeah, the code. Yeah.
HD.
Yeah, I know. Well, I did it with HD.
I know, even if that's what you get.
Even with that, yeah. So what you have to do is, yeah, you have to kind of. I found that if you zoom in a little bit on the screen, you can see it a little better. Yeah, sorry about that. There's very little other way I could have done it. And I didn't think it would take 20 minutes, but it showed what we tried to get to last week and we're out of time. So we're going to take that page and put a contact form on that. So somewhere out here, I have got that. Here's the best way to get it. Okay, and you can all get this code. I've got that. I created a starter pack with the code we created last week. So to do that, get onto GitHub. If you're interested in following along, I'm not even sure you need to sign in. You could probably I think if you go like this, you'll probably find this repository. No. All right, I got to log in so I can find my own repository. That's fine. So we'll go to lesson 5. So go to Web Programming Spring 2013, right? So it should look like this. If you look in the folder of lesson 5, you'll see Contact Start Us, right? So this is really what we need. The problem is you have to download the whole repository probably if you want to get started. I don't think it allows you to take just a folder, does it?
Or you just clone the actual,
I don't, I wonder what's
on the actual folder and then clone it.
Yeah, I don't know if you could, can you do that?
I'll try it. Click on one folder.
Yeah, I think if you zip it, it takes the whole repository. If you do it like a right click and save the link, you're really linking to a page, not a folder, you know.
Okay, how do you find your repository?
How do you find mine? I think if you, here, let's see if we type this thing in.
You put it in the address bar and it comes up.
If you want, I will post this in our class. Click on the folder that, yeah, I could get the contents, but how do I download just those contents? Yeah, I would be done. So I'm going to zip it. But it is a good right-click content. So if I right-click, like this, it won't that down. That's just going to be a link to a page. Yeah, and it didn't work. Yeah, I tried it last time and it didn't work. Right-click content, not the folder. Okay, so content is, if I go here, where does it say content?
You download it?
Yeah, I can't find it. I don't know why I can't find it, but I can't find it. Within the Contact Us Start folder. Alright. Oh, and I could just go... Yeah, I still don't know where it says content. So... Right-click index.php. Yeah, but that is not going to take. It's just going to take that file. I think the most direct. Maybe there's a different way to do it. I'm gonna move on. You want the folder that's in lesson 5 called Contact Us Start. All right. So. It has a bunch of stuff in it. That's why you want it, right? You want the stuff. What?
What am I supposed to do?
You want to start putting them into a site so we can start working on them. Right? All right. So now I have this folder, and in my lesson 5, this is what I want.
Why am I not in the same folder at all?
Okay, let's try this again. Why you're not seeing it, I'm not sure. But
I just downloaded the whole.
yeah, so in the folder called Lesson 5, which is right here, there's a folder called Contact Us Start, and you're in the wrong repository. So you got to be in the wrong repository because it's right here. So you need to be at this URL right here. All right. So I'm going to open Dreamweaver, and I should have a. If I go to my local view now, I have a Contact Us Start. Right? And because I've got, let's see if I've got this on my server. I don't have Contact Us Start. So I am going to work in this folder, essentially. And most of the work I'm going to do is write in this index.html. So the first thing that you can see, and one thing we could do, obviously, is bring this up in Chrome. Yeah, if you wait long enough, your homework gets done. So this page might not, oh, here we go. Okay. So it looks pretty similar to what we had last week. I might have taken out some content just to make it a little simpler. And what we're going to do today is add a contact form right here. Right? Last week, remember, we created a modal, right? Very simple pop-up window. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a contact form that's going to sit in a modal dialog box, just like that. And that modal dialog box is going to have a send. And when somebody fills up the contact form, they could send it, and you're going to get an email that says, I visited your website, and I need my lawn mowed, or whatever. Right? So, you guys ready to go? Do I what? Oh, do I want to quote first? Yeah, so exactly. You could add you could add as much sophistication to this contact form as you want, right? So at this point, I'm just going to sort of keep it simple. What's your name? What's your phone number? And what we're going to have is a little feature. What kind of services do you need? You know, do you need mow lawn? Do you need a tree trimmed or whatever? Just to show you how to get data in and out. And also to show you something that we haven't learned yet in PHP, that we're going to learn in PHP and in JavaScript. We talked about it a little bit. It's called an array. Right? So we're going to create an array. An array is a variable that has more than one value. So we might have something called services, and the customer could say, I want my lawn mowed and I want my, dahlias trimmed or whatever. So that you could have an array of services that they need, and then you could get an email saying, Joe Smith, went to your website, filled out your contact form, and they need an array of services. Their lawn mowed and their trees trimmed or whatever, right? So we're going to learn what an array is. We're going to learn 3 or 4 new techniques in the process of doing this tutorial. And I'll try to point those out as we go through them. But at this point, we should have this basic website. And as you can see, the thing that we did in the video that I posted is built in here as well. So if you want to see how that works, all the code is in here. As somebody said, last week's tutorial is this week's starter lesson. So, you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
So the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is create a form. Basically, this process is going to have 3 parts to it. Create a form in HTML, create some kind of JavaScript program that processes that form, that sends that form to the server. Remember, Ajax is cool because it's asynchronous and you could get data up to a server without refreshing the page, but you have to do it programmatically in JavaScript. So we're going to write the JavaScript that packages that data up and sends it to the server asynchronously using Ajax. And then there's a third part to it, which is the server part of it, which is written in PHP. And what is that going to do? As a yes, what do you think that part is going to do? Send the mail, right? It's going to take the data that was entered in the form and organize it in some way and send out an email using PHP. So basic 3 steps. First step we're going to do now is to build out a form to try to capture the data that we want to capture, right? So as always, we're going to switch over to code mode here, or code view. And the first thing we're going to do is essentially create a new modal, right? You know what those modals are, those pop-up windows. We want to put our contact form into a modal. Why would we want to do that? Because it's kind of cool. Because it doesn't take up any page space, and it only shows up when you need it, right? And it doesn't require you to navigate to a whole nother contact us page, which is a whole nother network connection, a whole nother page to manage, a whole header and a footer to code and all of that. Another page, all of it's going to be in one document, and we'll just set it up as a modal. So it's an easier way of doing it. Also, it's a cool technique. So what I'm going to do is take my existing modal, which I already created, the About Us one, and using this cool feature in Dreamweaver, I'm going to grab the whole div. I know that this outer, so how do I do that? I know that this outer div is basically the outer wrapper from my modal, right? Remember, where did I get this code? Did I write this code last week? I grabbed most of it off of Bootstrap's website, and we made some modifications last week. Right? Remember we went to Bootstrap and grabbed that. If you go to the Bootstrap page and you go to JavaScript and you go to modal, the HTML code to set up a modal is pretty much right here. So I've already got that. I'm going to start with that, and I've already got it on my page, at least the starter of it. So there's pros and cons to this technique of copying and modifying, but in most cases the pros outweigh the cons. Everybody's got their own programming style, and in many cases it might not be the best way to just copy and paste. But if I'm teaching in front of a class, usually it's a good way because it would take forever for me to type all this in. So I'm going to take the quick way, which is I want to grab this whole part. So to copy and paste, you got to make sure that you're copying the right things, the right bits, right? So in Dreamweaver, there's a couple of ways to do that. There's this button here, right? This little caret with an insert button right there. And when you click on that, that button will only appear in code view mode. And it's called or labeled select parent tag. So wherever you are in the code view document and you click on that, it'll go to the parent element from where your cursor is and select that and all of its interior elements, all of its child elements. So now I know that I have the model. Because the engineers at Dreamweaver are so smart, there's another way to do this. You could put your cursor basically in the same place, and you could use these, you could use that. Right? This thing right here is sort of another div or element navigator, and it shows where you are in the document, even if you're wrapped in. So if I'm in the footer of the, if I'm in the A of the footer of the modal, I don't want to click here, I don't want to click here, but if I click here, it'll give me that whole modal. Right? It's doing the same thing. It's selecting everything within that element, including its children. So I could either click in the right element here, or I could put my cursor in the right place and click over here. And both of those are the same. And then what I'm going to do is just copy that, and I'm going to paste it right below it. Remember, these modals by default, do they show up on the page loads? They're hidden because they're the class of hide by default. So they're shown when you click on the element that presents them, but by default they're not shown. So where you put them in the document is not all that important, but it's probably the good idea to at least put them in the same place. So let's see, this one ends right there, so I'm going to put this one right below it. And just to separate them, oh yeah. So this is my new modal right here, starting at 185 and ending at 196. And the first thing, obviously, I have to do is change its ID. Right? I can't have two elements with the same ID. So embedded, instead of about us, it's contact us. Right? This is our modal contact us. And these could all stay the same. And we want it to be hidden by default. We want it to be a modal. We want it to fade out as its transition effect. Right? The header, instead of saying about us, it could say what? Yeah, contact us. Contact us. Or, you know, we need to be a little, you know, that's kind of what's the word? Cliche. Contact us. You know, there's probably 100 gardeners in Santa Rosa. Now, if they all say, you know, we need something better. We need, come on, put on your marketing hat here. Let us know how we can help. All right, how's that? You know, if you put submit on your buttons, nobody clicks them. You have to kind of put send or, you know, free offer. So let us know how we can help. Sorry, this isn't a marketing class. But web design is marketing. That is the class section. So, so we have a header in there. The header is closed. Now we have in the body. We're going to get rid of this paragraph. In the body is going to be our form elements. In the modal body, we could get rid of that paragraph because we're going to replace that with form elements. And in this, and what we're going to do here is add another button. So one button will be close, and we're going to add another button, which is submit. Or, like I said, we don't want to call it submit. So I'm going to just copy this code again. I'm going to embed it, copier. And instead of submit, let's call it send or contact us. What would be click?
Start buying now.
Start buying now.
Let us help you.
Let us help you now. All right.
Let us trim you.
All right, send. All right, we'll leave it at that. And we're going to give this an ID. Why would we give the button an ID? Because we want to know specifically when somebody clicks that specific button. That button is the key to our program. When somebody clicks that button, it starts everything off. You know what I mean? How can we have a...
I have a...
Yeah, I'm not sure. But and here we could give it send contact. Could be our... That's the name, the idea of our button, right? Remember, it's not the idea of the modal form. That's something different, but it's the idea of the button. And to make it stand out a little bit, instead of just a button, it could be a button primary. Remember those blue buttons? I think if you give it a button primary class, that should give it a blue button. And the last thing, I'm going to put this up here, the last thing we need to do is make this modal pop up when we want it to pop up, right? So how would we do that? If we want it to work off of our menu, right? So let's go up to our navigation, which is at the top, almost at the top of the page right here, and where it says contact, let's just give it this data toggle code right here. We could get rid of that href. And instead of toggling to about us, we want it to toggle to contact us. Okay? And I think if we put this page up there,
You've gone too fast.
I'm going too fast. All right, I'll go back and review it, but let me make sure it works before I do it. So I click on this, and we don't get it to work. Huh.
That's what it is. I caught it.
That's funny. And just to be sure, I'm going to put this whole thing up there. And when I click on, it doesn't work. Huh. So, why is that not working? Let's see. Contact us is the data target. It's one word. Ah, here. We got some code problems, right? There's a missing quote somewhere. I know. They're going to tell me what's wrong, but I want to see that. Quotes, contact us quotes. Yeah, no, I know it's a quote. Where is it?
Most of the get right after ID.
What line?
They have ID, contact us.
What line? Ah, here. Thank you. All right. Save that. Go back here, reload it. Oop. Put it on the server. Do not ask me that again. Okay, so we've created a modal again, right? We haven't done anything magic. We learned this last week, but we added another modal and we got it to work, right? And it's got this button, right? The button doesn't do anything yet, but it gives us the ability to do something, right? And it's a primary button. It stands out. Okay, so now let's add some form elements to our form, right? Or let's create a form. So let's go back in here. We're going to create these form elements in the body, right? So what do we want to get? We want to get a name, an email address, maybe a telephone number, and maybe get them to answer some questions. At this point, we could ask them a bunch of questions. What's your budget? All sorts of things. Are you really interested in the gardener? Am I the only person you're calling? Do you need a quote? Blah, blah, blah. At this point, though, let's just stick with the basics and learn how to program some basic things, which is name, maybe address, maybe email, and like I said, something that has more than one answer, so we can explore how to work with arrays. Okay, and so let's do that. So let's do this. Let's create a set of input elements that are wrapped. Let's take advantage of our bootstrap environment, right? So we're going to create a virtual table using our grid system for our contact form. Does that make sense? You know how tables, you know how forms could get really ugly when you're laying them out? If you use the grid system, they should line up a lot more effectively, and it shouldn't be that difficult to do, right? So remember, our grid system is based on an outlying div with a class of row, right? So we could close that. And then an inner div, and then inner divs with classes of span. Span 12, span 5, span 6. The modal as a whole will take a row of span up to 5. Does that make sense? Because it's not the full width of the page.
And where was that determined?
I know that. You could make the modal wider, but since I did this, I've done this before, you'll have a span up to 5. So what I'm going to do is create a label with a span of 1 and an input elements with a span of 4 to line them up, just to make it very simple. So it'll look something like this. I could do a paragraph with a class equal span 1, and that paragraph could have name, right? And then I could close that paragraph. And then I could say, I think I could just go like this: input type equal text, ID equal, I need an ID for these things because I'm going to be working with them programmatically. I'm going to get their values with JavaScript. And remember, I think we've talked about this before, if you have an ID for something that's a unique identifier, it makes it a lot easier to grab it in JavaScript. So I'm going to give it an ID of customer name. Yeah, just call it customer name, one word. And it's text, and it's, oh, and then I could give it a class equal span 5. And I think that's smart enough to even drive the width of the input element. Does that make sense? So I think if I save this and put it on the server, reload my page, and just look at my contact form, I've got a name with an input element. Right? See that? So we're going to continue that. We're going to, let's get our, we could take this same structure, essentially, and now we want that person's email address. Right? If they contact us, we want to be able to contact them back. Right? So row doesn't change, the classes don't need to change, our prompt needs to change, email, and then this ID obviously needs to change to customer email would be fine. And instead of text, I could actually give it a email type as an input element. Does that make sense? Has anyone seen that before? It's new in HTML5. So we might have talked about this a little bit last week, but if you go to the HTML5 input types, and you look at this page right here, you can see that there's a input type of email. So it'll validate to make sure that what's entered looks somewhat like an email, right? So we might as well take advantage of that. It might work in Chrome, it might not work in Chrome. We can look down and see, it might tell us here. It works in Chrome, it doesn't work in IE, right? So we'll take advantage of it. If somebody's using IE and we really care about validating it as an email, what can we do? Wait until IE catches up? We could validate it with JavaScript. Is one way. We could write JavaScript that says what was entered in that, does it look like an email? Which is the way people did it before HTML5 had that feature. Or you could use PHP to do that validation. You'd have to write some kind of program, a function, that knows how to test to see if something looks like an email. I think all the HTML5 does, at least in Chrome, is to test to see if there's an ampersand in the string. It doesn't even need a dot. You could put X at Y and it'll think it's an email. So HTML5 is not all that smart, at least the way it's implemented, I think, right now in Chrome. But and you could make it smarter by validating using your own special validation techniques. But these do a pretty good job of validating, most cases, right? The good thing about the new input is that it brings up the best key. Yeah, that is true. Thanks for bringing that up. So here. One good resource that I just clicked through is the W3 Schools, which I've mentioned before. Great resource for tutorial and reference type of pages about all the stuff that we learned about. JavaScript, HTML, CSS, PHP, all of that stuff. This is the HTML documentation. In addition to that, there is this great book. And if you're in the HTML5 class, we're using it as our textbook this year. But it's called Dive into HTML5.info. It's a free book about HTML5. It's more than just a free book. It's the best book about HTML5, and it's free. And Chapter 9 is all about all the new form elements. And one of the things they stress, which Joe brought up, is one of the best benefits of the HTML5 form elements is not only how they validate in traditional desktop browsers, but how they render in keyboard-driven environments like smartphones, in virtual keyboard-driven environments like smartphones. Does that make sense? They might render in the browser to the point where your keyboard adapts to the situation of the input. If it's a URL, it'll give you a .com button key, right? In this case, it's an email, so it's giving you an actual ampersand without having to go to the what's it called? I'm getting too over this. The other part of the keyboard that does the punctuation. Right, so the email-specific punctuation is right there, the @ and the dot. They should have the .com on the email one as well. It's true. Yeah, so tell that to what's his name, Cook. That's a good thing to put in Apple's OS. Very good.
Although you
or their Safari.
hold the period.
Yeah, see, here's a web address, and you see it shows the .com and not the ampersand. So, and for some things like numbers, it even gives you widgets that don't even need the keyboard, right? So these tappable spin box controls make it so that you can enter a number without even calling up the keyboard, which some people like and some people don't, and might be good for some, if you're going for size 32, that might not be the best way to get there. But it's just another useful way of entering numbers. So where were we? So we've created an email address field, right? Let's create one for a telephone number. call it phone since we only have, what is it, 60 pixels or whatever. And we'll call it, I think it's tel for the telephone number. And we could call it customer. Tel will be the ID of the input box. Right? And if I save this and put it on the server, go back and look at our page for Joe's Gardens. So we're starting to get a form. And you can see by using the grids how it, you know, it's not magic, but it's a simple way of creating a somewhat organized layout of a form. Right, just using the grid system. So next what we're going to do.
Span 1, did you say?
I use span 1 and span 5. I think I use span 1 and span 5 for label and then the box. I think it, maybe it was 6. Yeah, maybe I was right. What did I use? 5s. Yeah. So you know what? It would be very easy for me to, you know, if I don't like that, if they come back and say change it, I could just do 2 and 4. You know what I mean? I could do 2, 2, 2, and 4, and then my grid system, as you can imagine, just 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. Quality control. I need you guys around all the time. I'll look over my shoulder while I'm working. For somebody. Okay, so I didn't need that space there. Maybe it gives it a little nicer look. You know, what'd be nice if we gave it a little background. You know what I mean? So here we could do that. What is that? It's called modal body. All right. So let's do this. Let's go into a CSS and just do dot modal body back. We just want it slightly, you know, slightly gray, like D. How's that? A little bit of contrast in forums goes a long way. I probably have to reload the whole page. I do. Thank you. And, you know, you guys know this effect. It's not magic, but it just makes the phone pop a little bit better. In fact, putting a gradient in there, and it'll double your context. You know, I'm kind of joking a little bit. But every little visual element does help a little bit. What is this called, this concept? Conversion, right? God bless you. Conversion, getting somebody to do something on your website that interacts as a potential customer, you're getting a conversion. You know, at the end of the month, the guy, you know, you're gonna have to go to Joe and say, you know, you paid me $1,000 for this website. What good is it? You're gonna say, well, look, you got 13 conversions this month. You know, you got 13 people to fill out this form. So making it sexier, making it look more inviting, even very subtle shading, like that little gray shade to make these things pop a little bit, to make it look a little bit more like a form, to make it a little bit easier for the user to see it. Maybe it's that 14th user who's looking at it on an iPhone in a subway somewhere, right? They could just see that form a little bit better, a little bit easier. You get that that incremental conversion factor. And there are web designers who spend all of their time just focusing on conversion and even doing split tests. If we make this blue instead of gray, are more people going to click? If we put, you know, a picture of James Bond over here, are people going to click more? You know, what are the psychological factors that make a website more performant? is very much a part of web design in the commercial world. And all of these little subtle design elements really do impact sites that get a lot of traffic, and even that incremental, if your conversion rate goes up 1/100% and you're getting 100,000 visitors a month, that's another 100 transactions a month. You know what I mean? That's a difference. That pays your bill as a web designer. You know what I mean? So all of these things are very important, and web designers and marketers and internet marketers spend a lot of time even doing things like heat maps. How do people's eyes scan a page? How do we get this form in the right place on the page so that it can be found easy? You know what I mean? How do we make sure, like here, obviously it's a no-brainer, but do enough people see this contact? Do we need to make that contact a blue button to get more people to find it? So all of these clues are important. All of you have skills in marketing to one degree or another, or instinctual ways of knowing how people behave. And you apply that as you build a page to get not only to make it look great, because people interact with things that look symmetrical and look like they're professionally built, but that also have those subtle clues that make them a little bit more inviting. Like I said, this isn't the best, but let us know how we can help you is a little bit nicer than contact us, which came with Dreamweaver. Yeah.
How to pick up the height of that gray?
Of this?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a div that depends on how many elements are in it. So there's probably some padding in there, and then these 3 elements are in there, and that div is made up of the elements that are in it. So it's going to get longer as we add things, essentially. The padding probably came from Bootstrap's modal CSS style rules. Yeah. Which, like I said, you could change. I don't know to what degree you're familiar with the inspector that are built within browsers. It might be a good time to talk a little bit about that. But you could see where these rules are coming from by finding your element and then looking at the styles on the right-hand side. Right. So if we say, here, let's do this. This wrapper element is called the modal body, and I styled it right here in Waves, but Bootstrap.css gives it a whole bunch of styling. And if I take that here, if I take that padding off, I can actually turn these rules on and off. And you can see what happens when I take the padding of 15 off, right? So to answer your question, the height on the modal body in this element is made up of the 3 rows that we created and 15 pixels of padding on either side of them, up and down. And when I take that padding away, you can see they all just crush out. Okay, so let's do more to our form. Let's do one more thing, or in general, let's do one more thing. Let's create a way for somebody to tell us what kind of work they want us to do in their garden. Okay, so what we're going to do that is a set of checkboxes. You ever see on a form a checkbox? Check on or off, and you could say I need this, this, and this. And with a checkbox, unlike a radio group, you could have more than one thing checked at a time, right? So let's do that. So let's create. We could copy this because the basic structure is not that far off. And let's call this mowing. And in fact, let's do this. And this one will be called, type will be checkbox. The ID will be mowing. The span could remain the same, and value will be equal to mowing. Right? And in fact, for these, because there's going to be a series of these, we don't really need to address them individually by using an ID. what we're going to do is, I'm going to take that ID out actually, because we don't ever need to address these checkboxes individually. We're going to look at all three of them at the same time. So we could just give them a class. Let's call it a class of services, right? And there'll be three checkboxes, all of which have a class of services, and then we'll be able to look at those as a group. Because how do you address a collection of elements? Yeah, thank you. I wanted to put that in classes. Thank you, Lisa. So when you want to address a group of elements, one way of doing it is to give them the same class. And in JavaScript, you could just say, I want to see or work with or select or manipulate just the elements that have that class. Right? So mowing is a checkbox that's in the services class, and we're gonna create two more. So I can just copy those, copy that and do it twice. Let's say mowing, trimming, and irrigation. Right? Those are its three main things that people call them for, let's say. And remember, all of this is just demonstration, obviously. And the values for these will also change. So that will be trimming, and this will be irrigation. And then when we save this form and put it on the server and refresh the page, we should see those new elements there. Doesn't look great. I could probably center them, left align them, but they are working, right? They are working elements. For some reason, they're text aligned center. I don't know why. So, any questions about any of this? This is all HTML. We haven't done anything yet that you already don't know, right? This is all review. Maybe a little bit of the grid stuff is somewhat new, but this should all be review for you. And the modal is probably something that's a little new, although we went over that last week. So, I think that's it. We're ready to do some JavaScript. Okay? So now what the JavaScript is going to do is respond to when somebody clicks that send button and send that information to a PHP program. That's essentially what the JavaScript needs to do. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay? So what we're going to do, we have some JavaScript programs out here. So just to kind of give you a tour of the files that you downloaded from last week's lesson, let's go to that. So the page obviously has the page stuff, the HTML content. Bootstrap is, I haven't touched that. That's the Bootstrap that came down from GitHub. That's the library. The CSS, well, that's the CSS. This style sheet, remember I created that in last week's lesson? Carousel template. I took all of the styles that make that carousel-oriented page, and I put them in this style sheet. So if you ever want to create that page again in Bootstrap, you could just use this style sheet again, and you can modify it according to your needs. Right? It's the same styles that came from this page right here. I just took them out of the HTML document and put them into a style sheet to clean them up. But just so you know what you got in those files, that's what that is. It's all the styles that make this menu roll up over the carousel and make the carousel a giant header and lay out the page. I took out some stuff, but it's all that stuff. Okay, what else do we have? Waves.css. This is just a couple of styles to help the waves, that wave thing on the bottom, look halfway decent. And in fact, the other thing I did was I changed the font for this page. I added a Google font. Right? I showed you how to do that last week, remember? So that style is in here. I might not use the same font last week as is in here, but the same concept is the same. Right? This is nothing more than jQuery. In fact, it's not even a file on my server. I am getting jQuery by loading it remotely from, where is it? From here, from jQuery site. So that is just the jQuery library, and I'm loading it from a content delivery network. This is the core Bootstrap JavaScript library. I haven't touched that. It's just downloaded from GitHub. This is the paper.js library. Again, I didn't program this. I just included it on my page so that I could have a simpler way of writing the canvas feature for the bottom of the footer, that wavy footer, right? The code that I wrote to create that wavy footer is all in here. So this is the custom code to create the wavy footer in the program, and you can modify this. If I change the number of points or number of waves in the footer from 25 to 50, let's say, and I put that up there, and I could get rid of this. And if I go back to Joe's page, here's my footer now with 25 waves. If I reload it, theoretically, I'm not going to count them, but there's twice as many waves as there was. Right? Let's see. An easy way to see it is if you really squeeze them down. Yeah, that looks very different than it did before. So it's easy to modify this thing. In fact, you don't even really have to know much about how the mathematics is. I mean, I made some minor changes to this. If you watch that short video that I recorded, and we could make some more, and you play around with it. But you don't need to be a geometry specialist to figure out, or trigonometry, or whatever it is that's making this work, to figure out how to make minor modifications in it. The size of the waves, the color of the waves, the number of waves, the frequency of the waves. How would we make it go faster? This on-frame event is somehow what makes it go, and I think I'm not sure how we do it. We'd have to look into the on-frame event, which is built into paper.js. And at this point, I'm not going to take the time to look into the documentation. But it's probably something that's relatively easy to configure, and probably it'll take a line or two of code to make the waves faster or slower. To make them choppier, you'd probably change the path height, right? From 25 maybe to 45 or something. So anyway, this is the code that we wrote. Most of it we didn't write. We got from an example on paper.js, but it's the thing that makes the wavy footer. So what I'm going to do now is create another JavaScript program, another JavaScript file. I could literally put the JavaScript here, and it would work just as well. It's just that I would be mingling two different things. Does that make sense? If I want to put my contact form on another web page, I'd have to find the code in this file and split it out. You know what I mean? If I wanted to put the wavy footer on another page, I'd have to break out the contact form stuff and get rid of it. So it's a little bit cleaner if I just create a new file. So let's create a new JavaScript file. And I could call it contact send contact.js. And I'm going to put that in my right in the folder where my HTML file is. Right? Question?
What is the difference between using JavaScript and PHP to
well, the question is, what is the difference between using JavaScript and PHP in doing this? And we're not using either or. We're going to use both. Right now we're writing JavaScript, which is going to work with the form data, and then we're going to write PHP, which is going to send an email. So it takes both. It's going to take two programs to make this example work.
Can you do it yourself, PHP?
you could do it just in PHP, sort of like we did last week, remember? You could do this fully in PHP. There are pros and cons to doing that. One is you either have two different documents, or you have one document where PHP and HTML are intermingled and it gets complex. So the preferred method is to use Ajax, where the PHP program is called by JavaScript, and you're using both languages to do so. So yeah, so you don't have to switch pages, so it's asynchronous. So we now have a new document called sendContact.js. I could close it because I have Dreamweaver, right? I could close that window of it, and then when I link that script into my page, it'll bring it back into these support files, right? And the best way to do that is just maybe, again, copy another script tag and literally just paste it in. And this one is going to be called send contact, right? So if I save this and count to 3, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, it should bring up, save it again. Oop. Yep, there it is. Okay. It's actually 5 Mississippi that you have to count. Okay, so now I am going to show you how to program JavaScript from the start into a page. Okay, so and we're going to do so using primarily jQuery as opposed to JavaScript because it's a simpler variant of JavaScript. So we could, as I said, there's a class in JavaScript that's taught in the fall. I've taught it the last couple of times. I'll probably be teaching it this current fall. It's a great class. Even that class alone is not enough to learn all of JavaScript. In fact, there probably could be an advanced JavaScript class following that class. That said, I'm going to teach you how to use JavaScript right now for the purposes of what we're doing, right? Which is to get this thing to respond to an event when we click on that send button and to grab data from the form and send it to the server. That's what this JavaScript is going to do. So the first thing, one of the first things you learn about jQuery and JavaScript in general, or JavaScript in general, and also in jQuery, is that you got to make sure before you do things like add an event listener to a page element or write JavaScript that in any way interacts with a page element, you have to make sure that that page element has already been loaded to the page when that line of JavaScript code goes to look for it. Does that make sense? Pages load line by line. And if we have so here's our document, page loading, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and when it gets to line 18, it's going to run this program, right? And if this program is talking about elements on the web page, there ain't any elements on the web page at this point. We're only on line 18. The first element on the web page doesn't start until line 29 with the body, right? That's really the first element that the DOM is going to be able to see as part of our page. It's the outer wrapper of the whole document. It's the body of the document. So, does that make sense? The browser loads the page. It goes line by line. It knows what the JavaScript is, but if the JavaScript is talking about things that aren't on the page, aren't loaded on the page yet, it won't work. So the technique that we use in jQuery to make sure that even though the script is loaded, that it doesn't run until all the elements on the page is a very simple script, and it looks just like this. You do all jQuery commands start with a $sign, and the selector is going to be document, and the function is going to be ready. So what we're saying is, don't do anything until this document is ready, and when this document is ready, do what's inside this function. So we're going to create an anonymous function. And a function has the word function, and then it has braces. And everything inside those code braces are the code of the function. And then we have to close out the ready function, and then we put a semicolon on here, and this very simple pattern, this actual code, this letter by letter code, is the correct way of writing JavaScript such that all the code that's inside of these curly braces will only ever run after the page loads. If I put any commands in here and they refer to page elements, they won't work because unless I put that script tag at the bottom of the page. You know what I mean? Which is another way of doing it. But even that isn't as short. The best way to do it is like this. So what I'm going to say is, I want the script to be part of my page, and I want it to run all the code after the page has been loaded. So what do I want it to do? Well, everything I want to happen upon what? When do I need JavaScript to run on this page? So let's go back. Let's go look at our page. Do I need JavaScript to load the page? No. Do I need JavaScript? Do I need anything? You know, I don't need it for the slide. Bootstrap has already provided that, the slider capability in the carousel. Do I need it to present the modal? No. Somehow Bootstrap takes care of that. It's got the JavaScript necessary to make that pop up. Everything I want to program in JavaScript is going to be based on send. Exactly. Everything is going to start when I click on that button. I want to grab the data that's in here, that's been entered in here, and I want to send it to a server. And that's essentially what I want it to do. So, to accomplish that, what I need to do is to put my code into another wrapper, something called an event handler. Clicking a send button is an event, and I'm going to write an event handler that will be there waiting for somebody to click that button. And when somebody clicks that button, JavaScript will ensure that that event handler runs. Does that make sense? That's what an event is. An event is a function. A function is a block of code that doesn't run until you invoke it, right? An event handler is a special type of function that has the same definition as a function. It's a block of code that doesn't run until you invoke it. However, an event handler, you don't have to invoke by calling it as the programmer. It's invoked automatically when a user does something specific. So let me show you how to write an event handler. So let's go back to our page and find that button. Okay? And the button is right here. It has an ID of send contact, send-contact. Everything is going to be based on this button. So let's go back to our JavaScript and write this line of code. Let's get a handle to that button. Right? To get a handle, I need to call the selector. $, open parentheses. Inside the parentheses is the selector, right? So, and to select an ID, I need the hash mark and then its name. Send. And Dreamweaver is so cool that it knows all the IDs on your HTML page, right? So all you have to do is find the right one and hit enter, and it selects it for you. And then I am going to write the event handler that's appropriate for what I'm trying to do, right? With a button, 9 times out of 10, the right event handler is click, because buttons were made to be clicked. Right? So now I've created a click event handler. And sort of like, nope, but I need another quote like that. And then I go click, and then again, like in my ready, I'm going to put what JavaScript calls an anonymous function. An anonymous function is a function that doesn't need to have a name because it's written out where it will be invoked. Instead of having to invoke it by name or calling it by name, it's just a way of wrapping code and putting it exactly where it'll run in line. So that's probably more than you. If you don't understand that, and I'm not sure I understand what I just said, then don't worry about it. To some degree, some of this is going to be cookbook. You know what I mean? Because like I said, JavaScript is a class unto itself and not a prerequisite for this class. But the net of this is, I now have a brace, a set of braces, in between which I can write code that one will only run when the page has been fully loaded, and two will only run if what? If the send button has been clicked. And will always run when the send button has been clicked. Right? So everything in this block will always run when I click it. It'll never run unless I click that one button. And it'll be waiting there until somebody clicks that button. Right? Everything I put in there is designed for that. So I could do something like alert time for a break. Right? Alert is a JavaScript function that creates a pop-up window, a modal window. So now we're going to have a modal window that gives you a button. When you click on it, it's going to pop up another modal. Does that make sense? This modal won't be a bootstrap modal. It'll be the modal that's built in to the browser. So let's see what I mean by that. Let's put this up on the page, up on the server. Yeah. I think. I don't know what it is. So now if I close this, and I go over here and reload it, and I click my contact form, and I click here, I don't get that alert. Huh. So let's see, click that alert, time for a break.
And your name doesn't have to match the same button title that it's assigned it in form. You know what I mean?
This does have to match.
So
Yeah.
what it's send contact?
Send contact matches, right? Did I upload? I didn't even see it this code. Thank you. So I put that on the server. I reload.
Why click and not on it?
That's a good question. Let me answer that. So I click that, and I get my modal, and I click this. Still don't get an alert. Do I get a JavaScript error? How would I know if I got a JavaScript error? The console will tell me. So if I go, the console is a tab on my inspector that is a window into my JavaScript engine in the browser. It's like a debugger. So if I load this, I click that, and I get to my button. Yeah, I don't get a JavaScript error. What do you think?
Did you upload the original source code? Didn't you add the script?
Yeah. Maybe you're right. I thought I did. Half of the problem is uploading the right files. Okay. Bang. Bang. That is the alert, right? Time for a break. So I'm just joking. We want to do one more thing before a break, but uploading the file. Uploading the file. So what makes that alert pop? I have, to answer Lisa's question, in my modal form, I have a button that has an ID of send-contact, right? And in my JavaScript, I have an event handler for the click event, which runs this anonymous function, which all it does is create an alert that says time for a break. And as I said, an alert is kind of the built-in modal window of a browser. To answer Carlene's question, why click and not on click? So, I'm sorry? Yeah. So on click is a attribute that can be added to most HTML elements that inherently creates the event listener. But if you're doing it programmatically with jQuery, you would use the .click function, right? So, and if you ever don't either want to take my word for it, or I'm wrong, or you forget, or whatever, just go to the jQuery documentation, and you could look at, you don't want to click on these events because these are like events. You know, these are like places to go to learn jQuery. But you want to go to the documentation, and you want to look at the events and browser, well, I don't know if they'd be under browser events, mouse events. Click. Bind an event handler to the click JavaScript element. And what this will do, you could go to the documentation for the click function, and that basically allows you to create a function within it that will run every time the selector is clicked, using that pattern of code that I just showed you. Okay. So I want to do, before we take a break, I want to do one more thing, which is, so all we've done so far is, like I said, a lot of HTML and just a very simple start to JavaScript, or more specifically to jQuery. One, how do you create, we have two event handlers, right? One that listens for when that button is clicked, and one that listens for when the whole page is loaded, when the document is ready. When both of those conditions are met, we're going to run some code, right? And we just did something really simple. We just did a very simple test. Run code and just throw something up on the screen to show that you're working, right? Let's do something a little bit more complex. Instead of saying alert a string, let's try to get some of that data out of the form. Because the next step is we want to be able to grab that data, right? So to do that, let's do this. Let's create a new variable. And in JavaScript, you use the word var for a new variable. So we're going to create a variable called contact. And in JavaScript, you could create so let's do this. You could create a contact, and remember this equal sign? It's the same in JavaScript as it is in PHP. It's a what? It's the assignment operator. Very good. So we're going to assign it. Now we're going to use jQuery syntax to get the value of our customer name. Right? So I close that, I close that, I close that. And because I'm getting at data that's sitting in an input element as opposed to a paragraph or a textual element, I don't want the HTML that's inside of it, I want the value that's inside of it. So I've got to use the value function to get the data out. And then, instead of alerting just a string, let's just alert contact so we could see the data that was entered in the name field. All right? So let's save this and put it on our page and put it on our site. And then we should be able to reload our page and put the contact form, which is J Gardner, right? Gardner. And I could fill out some things here. And when I click this, hey, look at that. I alerted out the data that was in that first text element. Does that make sense? So we're on our way to doing some stuff, to doing some, you know what I mean? We got an event So we're able to grab a handle into the workflow of this form at the right point now. Right? Our JavaScript is working when the button is clicked, which is what we want, number one. Number two, now we're able to get data out that was entered dynamically by our user. And next thing we're going to do is package it up and send it to the server and do something with it up there, send an email. Okay? So we're making progress. Any questions about any of this, how it works? You want me to go? Obviously, you probably want me to go back and put it up here. There's not a lot of JavaScript at this point. Most of it is the setup. When do you want this to work? You know, with jQuery particularly and JavaScript in general, a lot of it is where do you write the code in the event structure? You know what I mean? This is a pretty simple one where we only have one button. You know, many pages would have multiple buttons and different things, and maybe even forms within forms. So if you think about it, look at our class website, which, well, this one is not that complex. I started to add a submit button, but there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of information that gets all this information in there. It's not easy to see, but pages can get pretty complex pretty fast. I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's a couple of things you need to think about when you're writing JavaScript. When do you want the code to run, and what do you want it to do? And so far, in our code, we've done a little bit of both. And these first two pieces, this line and this line, with their accompanying closing wrappers, are all about when do you want the code to run. And now, within that phrase, we're going to write the code that we want to do what we want it to do. Okay, question? That's exactly what I said. The order of things really, really matter. Programming is procedural. It's going to go line by line.
So if you have a page that has, a dozen buttons on it, you would just go sequentially on your...
Well, the order of your event handlers doesn't matter that much. You know what I mean? Because event handlers don't run until they're called. So the order isn't as important as the structure. You only want the instructions, the code, that's applicable to an event handler to sit within that event handler.
So would you maybe have it right underneath the code?
No, it's better to have all of your code in one place, but to document it in a way. So right here, the first thing I'm going to say is get the data from the form, right? Because the first part of my, so what am I saying? Commenting helps, right? So what does this do? This first line, wait for the page to fully load. And now we know everything between here and here is part of that page load, right? And now we know, and this is wait for the send button to be clicked, right? And then get the, so if we document it and we use our curly braces and structures effectively, and we use indenting effectively. So again, this isn't a JavaScript class, but there's a lot to the way you write your code, even the white space, even the spaces in your code. In fact, when I teach JavaScript class, 90% of the class is using the JS link to get the spaces right. Now, I'm being facetious. But it's an important part because that's how you know, with these indentations, is an easy way for you to know your structure. You know what I mean? Just like a outline of a book report. You know, indenting helps you organize your thoughts. It's the same thing here. So this is running in the click. If I want something to run not when it's clicked, but when the page loads, where would I put it? I put it either here or here. So order doesn't matter as much as where does it sit in the structure. Any other questions? It always has to go within the braces of the function that you want it to run in. That's the most important thing. So we'll come back at 8:47.
Okay.
Or
I have to
8:40.
tell you this.
Yep.
Get the data from the from. Oh,
Get the data from the form. Sorry. How's that?
anyway, here's a question.
Question. So,
What about this?
should I?
The
Should I?
this button
Yes.
on your web page, on your contact page,
Yeah.
where is it going?
It doesn't. It works now, but it doesn't go anywhere yet.
Oh, okay.
So it goes to the FBI. It is, you know. But no, I'm joking. It's ultimately. So here's what we're going to do with it. We're gonna. You can submit your work, and then other people can see your work, and then you can even, if we get really fancy, we can even comment on each other's work.
Just so time to feel it.
And I could put a timestamp so I know what you're saying. It would be really like if you could table of contents or bookmark these 3-hour lectures somehow. It would. Yeah. People have told me that, and I try to remember. I just never know when to bookmark. So maybe you people in the class could say, "Jay, let's stop and bookmark this." So, but right now I'm going to bookmark a break. So let's take a break. I'm going to stop the recording.
I think it automatically bookmarks the break.
Okay. So we learned about the click handler. We learned about that. We learned about the input types. We're done with that. We are done with that. Back to our page. So look at this. So without refreshing the page, your data stays in the form, right? Because why is that? Well, no, because it's in the page element. These elements are, when I close this, am I deleting this form? I'm just hiding those elements.
So is there a way to clear it?
There is. You have to programmatically do so. You have to, if you want to clear it, you have to say the value of the name input is now nothing. Is a string of nothing, right? A null string to clear that out. Assign it a null string. Sort of like, here, I'll show you how to do that.
So once you hit the X, are you going to clear it?
Well, let's do that when first we have to process the form, and then I'll show you how to clear it, and that'd be a more appropriate way to show it. But the point is that the modal is a persistent part of the page. And all we're doing by clicking on it to display it and then sending it or closing it, all we're doing is really hiding it. We're not removing it from the page. And any data that was entered in there is still going to be entered in there until you actually remove it, either by selecting the text and deleting it, which the user has to do, or you as the programmer can do so, and you would do so at the appropriate time. Would we remove it from the code now? No, because you want to give them feedback. You want them to see what they typed. But maybe after the form is processed, you can remove it, so that if they want to send you another contact form for whatever reason, they don't see the old data that's in there. Just something to bring up when we look at the form. So at this point, where are we? We are able to get the click to respond to our user's action. We're able to get the form to respond, and we're able to get data out of the form, right? So we can continue this pattern to some degree. If we could get the name, you don't have to take the next 15 weeks of this class to get the email address. You just copy that line and modify it, right? So, but before we do that, let's look at something maybe a little bit more complex. So, contact is what in this code? Its value is the customer name, but contact itself is a variable. Very good. A variable is a named object within your program that can hold a value. correct? JavaScript, being a modern programming language, allows you to create variables that can hold a very simple thing, like a string, or a number, or a date, which we've seen up until now. But they also allow a special type of variable that can hold a complex piece of information. In other words, a variable that's composed of other variables, right? So what we want to do is, and those types of variables are called, anybody know what they would be called? So this variable, contact, right now has a value of something that's a string, because we're taking the information that's coming from that input field, which is a text input field, and we're assigning it to that variable. So contact at this point is a simple variable. It only holds a string. But JavaScript also allows you to create more complex variables, which are essentially variables made up of other variables. And those are known as objects, right? And so, correct, an array is a type of object that is made up of multiple variables, all of which have the same type. An object in general is an array, is a variable that's made up of a complex of a variable. So let me give you an example. First name is a variable that's a string, right? So I could say var first name equal J. I could say var last name equal Smith, right? And then I could say var name is equal to first. Well, if you add them, you'll get one string made up of both strings concatenated. But what you would do is you would say var name, and then you would you would assign those objects to be a part of that name. So to do that in JavaScript, I'm going to show you that syntax right now. The purpose of giving you the theory or the concept behind this, what we're going to do in practice for this form is, instead of creating a variable for the name and another variable for the telephone number and a third variable for the email, we're going to stuff them all into one variable called contact, and that variable will have variables in itself for name, address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense? And the way we do that syntactically in JavaScript is like this. In general, you would create a var, and we're going to call this one contact, is equal to, and an object notation in JavaScript means that you could put the components of your object and wrap them in curly braces. And you can give their components names within here. So we're going to call this customer name, and we're going to assign it with this value. We don't change where we're getting the name from. We don't need this anymore. And what we're saying now, var is now an object of which customer name is a part, a component of, a property, to be more specific. Objects have properties. And an object property is nothing more than another variable. And that's why an object is a complex. If you think about it, the real world works in this way, right? If you look at a car as an object, a car is made up of four wheels and a carburetor and all the pieces, each of which is an object, all the way down to the thread on the screw that connects the catalytic converter to the engine, right? All of those are objects, and each of which is a component. In a car, if you look at a car's bill of materials, all of its parts, it'll look like a hierarchical structure, right? The catalytic converter has parts, and it in itself is a part. And it attaches to the engine, which in itself is a part, which has to be assembled onto the body, right? So the world is made up like this. We are, cars are, living things are. It's a component-based architecture. And JavaScript's object model subscribes to a component-based architecture. So now name is part of the contact. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to use a comma. And the next property of contact will be the email address. So let's call it customer email. And its value is going to be taken from the value of that input field, right? So again, I could copy it, and instead of customer name, I want email, right? And then, if I save this and put it on the server, so now contact is a compound object. It's not just one variable, it's multiple. Let's see what happens if I try to alert it out. If I try to display it in that alert box, nothing happens. I click here, I put an email in there, and remember I'm alerting it out to this box, and it displays it, but because it's a complex object, JavaScript isn't smart enough to put the value out there. It just says, what you've got there, buddy, is an object. And you can't look inside it using this simple mechanism. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you another technique. So what is alert? Alert, I'm just using it as a simple debugging thing. It's not really part of our program here. I'm just using it for feedback, right? Another way of inspecting the values of your variables in JavaScript is to log their values out to the console. Instead of alerting them, you can log them out to the console. And the syntax for that is console.log. And if you do that, and you run it in a browser where your console is open, I'll show you what happens. When I click this, and I put data in the fields, oh, I probably didn't upload it. All right. Okay, so instead of putting it to the alert, instead I put it into the console log, and you can see the console log actually allows me to see the components, the properties, the individual values of the individual properties of the object at that point, right? So I console logged out contact as a variable, but contact is actually made up of two properties, customer name and customer email, and the values are in there. You see that? So we're getting closer. We're able to not only grab more value, more of the information from the form, but to pack it into one variable. And ultimately, all of this data we're going to send up to the server, like I said before. So let's continue along that way. So the learning point here is an object, and in JavaScript, object notation. And if you go to search for this, just to show you that I'm not making this stuff up, JavaScript object notation. No, I'm thinking of JavaScript object literal. Okay. So an object literal is the syntax that we just used to create an object. Right? Does that make sense? An object literal is literally how you write an object out so that JavaScript interprets it as an object. And this syntax is called the JavaScript object literal. So if you ever forget, is this a a comma or a semicolon, or is this a colon or a dash? It's the JavaScript object literal notation that allows you to create an object in JavaScript, right? So, going back to our program, we got the email, we want to get the telephone number, and most important, we want to get those services. So, the telephone number is pretty simple. It's going to work exactly the same way. So let's go back to that in a minute, and let's look at how to get those services, right? So what do I mean by those services? When somebody clicks on this form, they could select one or multiple services, and what we want to do is pack those into this object, right? Does that make sense? You guys following along logically here? Okay, so how would we do that? Because there are multiple checkboxes, what we're going to do is use this thing called iteration. Iteration is essentially doing something repeatably, right? To go through something and make sure you capture all the iterations of it. So we want to iterate through the 3 checkboxes to see which ones are checked, right? It's just the process, the programmatic process that we have to get through. We have to go through each one of those and iterate through them. And in JavaScript, the good news is that's relatively easy. It's a little bit trickier than just getting the data right from the field. Like the name, we know where it is. We have an ID for it, right? With a checkbox, it's a little bit different. We not only want to know if the first one is checked or if the second one is checked, we want to know which ones are checked, right? So let's do this. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get the data from the checkboxes before I create the contact variable. Because once I get that data, I'm going to put it into the contact variable. Does that make sense? The services that the person is asking for are part of the contact data that are going to be submitted with that form. So services will be a variable. So I'm going to create var services, and I'm going to assign it no value at this point, but I'm going to assign it in my assignment operator. I'm going to assign it a opening and closing square brace. Square braces are the syntax for arrays. And by putting a square brace with nothing in it, all I'm saying is JavaScript services is going to be an array. It's going to have more than one value. It could have mowing, it could have mowing, trimming, it could have mowing, trimming, and irrigation. It could have none of them, depending on what's checked. But the point is it might have one or more values, in which case we need an, thank you.
Yes.
So, it's good to see this stuff sticks, semester to semester. I'm so proud.
Earlier.
Well, 20 minutes maybe, not a semester. All right. Okay, so I have an array called services. Then what I'm going to do is create a jQuery statement that selects all of my checkboxes that are checked, right? So how do I know that something's a checkbox? It has a class of services, I think. So, and a class has a dot services, and if it's checked, I think it's going to have a checked pseudo class. Does that make sense? A checked pseudo class. I think this is new to CSS3. It might not be. There were new pseudo classes added in CSS3. This might have been there before, but it's a simple declarative way of saying which things that have a class of services are checked. So I got my selector. And now what do I want JavaScript to do with each one of those? I forgot my quote. Thank you. And then I want to iterate. So the JavaScript function for iterate is called each. Iteration means each, right? So let me explain what that means. Let's say an array is 10 soldiers in a line, you know, a rank of soldiers, privates, and you're the sergeant, right? Well, you could deal with an array as a whole. You could say, company march, and all 10 of them go marching, right? What we're doing now is iterating through them. We're not addressing them as a whole, we're addressing them individually. We're saying, Private 1, stand before me. You, head to the showers. Private 2, stand before me. But really what we're doing is saying, Private 1, are you checked? If you are, we're going to add you to this next array. You know, checkbox 2, are you checked? If you are, you know, go over here, get in that array, right? So for each array, for each thing, checkbox, with a class of service that is checked, we want to add it to a new variable. What variable do we want to add it to? The services array that we just created. Very good. So how do we do that? Well, with each, again, it's kind of like this function that we have to create an anonymous function within. jQuery in particular, but JavaScript in general, likes to put things in functions by default. And a lot of code is designed just to put a function in, and we typically use anonymous functions to do so. Because anonymous functions are ones that, like I said before, they kind of run in line. They don't have to be called, but they still perform like a function. So, I think I said this before, that's way beyond what you need to know in this class. I'm just explaining why I'm doing this. But at this point in this class, this is more of a cookbook type of tutorial, because JavaScript is bigger than I could teach in this class. So, but I'm going to create another anonymous array, and everything in this array, everything in this block, another anonymous function, and everything in this anonymous function will run for each of the selected checkboxes that have a class of services. And then I could close that out. Closing this stuff out is you got to make sure you close that out, and then that out, and this needs to be closed out right here. So every time there's a checked box, we want to go. We want to assign it to services. Right? So we want to do something like this. We want to accumulate it in services. Very good. So I'm going to show you, right now we're not accumulating it in services. We're assigning it to services. I'm going to show you how to accumulate it in a second. And I'm going to tell you what this means in a second. But we're going to take this. Okay. So, what do we mean by accumulate versus assign? Right now I'm assigning. I have a variable called services. It's an array. And every time this loops, I'm going to assign a different value to it. That's not what I want. I want to accumulate them. So what I want to do is give it an index. In other words, this index of services should be equal to mowing. And the next index of services should be equal to whatever, trimming or whatever it is. So what we would do is essentially we would put like an I in here, because I is the default index from 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? In this case, this refers to the instance of the checkbox. So each iteration will have a different this. This is the first checkbox that's checked. Then it'll get the next checkbox that is checked. This will be equal to the value of whatever the context is for that checkbox.
So is I technically 0?
The first iteration, I will evaluate to 0. The second time it finds a checkbox that's checked, I will be equal to 1. That's a very good question. I'm not. By default, it each does it. Yeah. The each creates an I and a val. Here.
Put anything in there, it could be X.
Yeah, I think it's, let's take a look.
So that each creates the value.
Yeah, if we go to jQuery each. That's a good question. Is I by default? So, you could get, here's where you put it, is right in here, in the function. So you could give it an index and a value. In this case, though, I'm getting the value from a pointer within this. You know what I mean? So it's not really appropriate. And somehow it figures out that index is I. I don't know, maybe it's magic. I did not declare them here, and well, let's see if it works. I think it'll work.
But if this is like
You know what? You're right, Carly. I messed up. You do need to put the I in here. So the anonymous function that's within an each function, a jQuery each function, needs at least an index to be declared. And it can also take a value. In this case, we don't need the value because I'm getting the value from the this. You could type it. You could call it whatever you want. I could call it Lisa, as long as I refer to it here as Lisa.
So if you're using numbers and you use all an index, you have to use services index as well, or can you change it to not will it understand this?
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're asking.
If I've named it index in function,
Yeah.
would I need to change the I and the services?
No,
Or
they have to be the same.
have to be
They have to be the same. Okay. So now what I want to do is add services to my contact object, right? So all I have to do is put another comma here, and I could call it services again, and I could assign it with the value of services. This variable refers to this, and this is a variable that's just going to be a property in the contact object, right? Even though they're the same word, I don't think there'll be a conflict between them. They're referring to two different things. And then when I put this up, the behavior I should see, let me test it. I know some of you guys are still typing. But before you finish typing, let's make sure it works, right? So I go to my contact form, and now I'm going to fill out, my name, my email. It's not picking up phone at this point. But if I click this and send it, I get services with an array of 1, right? Well, wait. Let's see where it's getting at, what it's doing. If I reload it and go XXX, blah, 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 and try to select 2 services, I've got an array of 2 in there, right? Now, at this point, I can't yet see exactly what's in there. I just know there's 2 arrays in there. But if I open up that object in the inspector and open up, I can get to the data in there. I know what was selected. While I could only see the number of instances in there, here is my index and here is my value. Does that make sense? So I've got a way of getting at an array, right? Let me try this again. I open this up, and this time I'm going to, let me make this a little lower. This time I'm going to select mowing and irrigation. And when I send that, I get another object. It also has an array with 2 elements. But in this case, the services selected are mowing and irrigation. So it's grabbing my data and popping it into the array. Actually, it's pushing it into the array. Popping is removing something from the array. That's a different story.
I don't know why is it 0 and 1 and 0 and not 2? In other words, it's not matching the.
Oh, why doesn't it match the numbers of the that are on the checkboxes?
Yeah.
Because they don't these don't represent the checkboxes. They represent what was chosen. Right? There were two things chosen, and computers use 0 as 1 as the first element. So if I was to select 3 things, right? If I was to call this back and go 1, 2, 3 and send that, I now have an array with 3 elements, and when I open it up, 0 is mowing, you know, so it goes through and iterates those. You can't change the order because jQuery is going through and iterating in order, you know, in order of the DOM. So does that kind of make sense? You don't have to, this is kind of a cookbook, you know, in the sense that, what do I mean by that? What we're learning in this class, in this 1 3-hour class, could be a couple of weeks. You know, there's a lot packed into here. Arrays, JavaScript itself, getting JavaScript to PHP, all of these things. So my purpose of this is maybe not so you understand every single piece of the code, but that you kind of get a conceptual view of what it's doing, and you kind of know where to go to get more information if you're interested in doing more with it, essentially. But the basic concept to go back to is once the document is fully loaded, and once somebody clicks on that button, first thing we're going to do is create space to find out all the services that they need. Then we're going to iterate through all those checkboxes to see what they checked. And we're going to put those in this array. Then we're going to put the other information into this object along with that array. And then we're going to put it out into, at this point, we're going to put it into just spill it out into the log of the console, right? It's here now that we need to focus our energies. Is this what we want to do ultimately, is just show it in the browser? No, we want to send it to the server. So now we're going to learn how to do Ajax. Okay? Question? Okay, so Ajax is actually pretty straightforward in jQuery. You just do $.Ajax. That's basically it. That call. So what's different about this jQuery from almost all the other jQuery that we've written? For those of you who took the JavaScript class, you probably could answer this. There's a period. So it's not that there's a period after the $, it's that there's no selector. Because when we're running Ajax, it's the browser that's doing the Ajax. It doesn't need a selector. It's the browser is actually running the Ajax. Nothing else on the page can run Ajax but the browser. An individual element can make an HTTP call. The browser can make an HTTP call to another server, another service. So Ajax is as simple as that, but like in almost all other code that we do, there's the complexity in what's inside that function, right? So the first thing that we see inside an Ajax function is an object literal, right? We pass an object literal to Ajax. And that object literal is a set of options that we need to tell the Ajax command what we want it to do. So, and those options, like I said, are passed in an object literal. So an object literal is demarked by curly braces, and then it has a variable name or a property name, and then a colon, and then a value, and then a comma. And you repeat that until you get all of your properties in there. So the first property that we want is what type of HTTP request do you want to make? And there are a couple of different types. Remember, there's post and get. Remember, we went over that in the first week. So it doesn't really matter for this example, but I'm going to make it a post request, which is what we used for the age calculator. You remember what the differences are between the post and the get? With a get, the variables, the data is passed as part of the string, as part of the URL. With a post, you can't see the variables. They're processed by the server. But you don't need to even know that for this purpose. This should be a comma, because the properties, you separate properties and their values, property value sets in an object literal with commas, right? So we need to have a type of post. We need to give it a URL, right? So what resource do you want to call? Remember, Ajax is an HTTP request, and every HTTP request needs to have a URL. It needs to have a resource to find, right? So we're going to create a new web page that we haven't created yet, and we'll call it sendContact.php. We haven't created that page yet, but that's the page that we're going to create that will accept this data, all right? It does need quotes. Thank you. So we want to pass that URL as a string, and you could give it a qualified name. You know, so if it's one folder over, you know, or one folder up, you could go, you know, dot dot. You could give it a relative address there. And then we want to pass data to the request.
So it would be relative to where this JavaScript lives?
It's a good question. It's relative to the page. I think it would be relative to, no, it's relative to where the to where the page is. Because the JavaScript is running in the context of the page. So if the page is in a different folder from the JavaScript, it'll find this file based on where the page is, not where the JavaScript is. In this case, it's no. The page itself is right here in this home directory.
Right, but the JavaScript is going to
The JavaScript in this page happens to be here in the same folder, but even if it was in the lib directory, it's relative to where the page is, not the script. Because the script is running in the context of the page. Does that make sense? Doesn't matter wherever the JavaScript is, doesn't matter. It's where the page is. So we want to pass the data, and the data is where? The data coming from the form is in a variable called contact. Very good. So we could say our data, am I typing here? Our data is in the variable called contact. So when you send a request for when you submit this request, this Ajax request for sendContact.php, include this data with it. And where is this data going to be? Remember in week 1, when we processed the form, where did we find the data when it was posted? In a special variable called $_post. Remember that? So that's where we're going to get it in a minute, right? Remember that? So we're going to get that in a minute. So we're going to put the data into the request just by saying the data is coming from contact, right? And then we could close out our object literal. We don't need that anymore. And then we want to close out our Ajax call. No. I don't think. Oh, is it? You're right. So I don't need any of these. This closes both of those out. But I don't really want to close my statement out yet. So the Ajax function could be chained with a done function. D-O-N-E. So what the done function is going to do is, so you would say $.Ajax, and then you pass it an object literal with the options for making the request. Where are you making the request from? Is there any data? What type of request is it? And then you chain that with a done, and that whatever code sits here will be processed when the Ajax request is complete. And remember, the Ajax request is asynchronous. It won't come back until that PHP has done all of its work. And when that's done, it'll send a signal back to your browser and say, everything you asked me to do, I've done. And then we could put some code in here, right? So when the Ajax function is done, what do we want to happen? We just want to give them some feedback, right? So here it might be appropriate to do something like an alert, you know, alert. Your email has been sent. Your contact info is sent. We will call you soon. Right? And I've got an error. So so start typing random parentheses. So done. I know why. Done needs a function again. It needs one of those anonymous functions. And I think if I go like that, I should get rid of all of my errors.
When you're calling it an anonymous function, that's not the same as a
An anonymous function is a function that doesn't have a name. Right? So this function doesn't have a name. It just has braces. So it just runs by default. Anonymous functions are confusing in JavaScript, and it wouldn't add a lot of value if I kind of went into a discourse of why they are there and what they do. At this point, it's a cookbook. Put an anonymous function there and it'll work. So what happens if I run this? Let's see. What do you think is going to happen? It's not going to like it that I don't have any. Yeah, I'm sending this data to somewhere that doesn't exist, right? But that said, will it interrupt my program? Yeah, I never get a done. I never get an acknowledgement that my email has been sent. So my button still works. It does something, but it doesn't do ultimately what I want it to do. And Ajax tries to make something happen, but it gets an error, right? It gets an error, 404 not found, which bubbles up into a JavaScript error, right? First it starts out as an HTTP error, right? You've seen these. This is an HTTP error, right? But then I'm calling HTTP using JavaScript, so that bubbles into a JavaScript error, which stops my program. So the next thing I need to do, obviously, is write my server. Write my program called contact-php, send-contact.php, and get that to do something. And when that's done, I'll get feedback back to my browser, and it'll show that alert. Right? So let's do that last little piece, and let's try to do that tonight, even though we have less than a half hour left. So what we're going to do is create a new file, and we could call it a PHP file, and it needs no document code at all. So you can blow all that away. It's purely a server. It doesn't need to do any document rendering. All it needs is PHP code So let's see. It is PHP and an enclosing PHP, right? And in here I'm going to write the code that's going to do stuff, right? So then I'm going to save this file. Save as, and we're going to call it, as you can guess, send contact.php. So this, because it has PHP code, this file does need to be named .php. But if you notice our main file, it has a .html file type. So even it doesn't have any PHP code in it, even though it's a PHP application, it's using PHP, or it's not yet, but it's going to use PHP. Because it doesn't have any PHP code in it, the server doesn't need to know it's a PHP file. So you could, this is an example where if you use PHP in a client-server mode, you don't really need PHP on your client, and it could be a regular HTML file. Right? There's no advantage one way or the other. I think most servers will try to run, if you have an index.php and an index.html in the same folder, I think most servers are configured to try to load the PHP file first. That would be the only difference. Then, I'm sorry? Not unless you delete the PHP file, because it's only going to load one. You know what I mean? The browser can only... In other words, if you load them into a folder called, you know, whatever, lesson 1, it's only going to load one of those. Right? So, how do we get to our data? Remember I said before, we use the post method to transmit the HTTP request, right? So we could use the $_post variable that's created by default to get at those values, right? So here, let's do this. We could do the PHP function called printr, and we could do $_post, and that post is an array. It's an array of all the variables that were passed, all the data that was passed. So we know that one of the data elements was, I think we called it customer name, right? So this should print out, if everything works right, this should print out the customer name to the page. I got to put one more parenthesis here, get rid of that error. And now I'm going to save this and put this on my server. Printr is just going to, I'll show you what it'll do in a second, but it's just going to print it out. And where it'll print it to, is it going to print it out to my page? No, because that's not a page. You know, it's not a document. So I'm going to show you in a second how to use that command. So I click here. I put some data in. This data doesn't matter because I'm only going to look at the name anyway. I send it. It gives me my alert back. That means that my Ajax was done, right? Remember, it didn't do that before. And now if I look at my network resources, I could see all the files that my document had to load. Obviously, the file itself. And then all those support files, the CSS and the JavaScript. And then this, it loaded after the page loaded. It loaded it after I clicked the send button. It ran this resource. And if I click on this resource, you could see the request that was made and the response that came back. And this is what printr put back. It's the mumbo jumbo that I typed into the name field. Right? So let's try that again. Because it's mumbo jumbo. If I type in Sergio, and I got to get to that button. I click that button. Then I should see yet another request for send contact. This is the second one. The first one returned gibberish. The second one returned surgery. Right? So one, I'm getting data to the server, and now I could see it in the server. Does that make sense? Do you see that? And PHP can at least dump it out on the page. It's not ultimately what I want to do, but in programming we take things one step at a time, and we kind of test. You know, am I getting the data I want? All right, let's move to the next step. Right? So what do I want to do with this data? What did I say? It's a contact form. And very little, what do I want to do?
Email it to you.
I want to email to Joe, the gardener, right? So he gets an email that says, somebody went to your website and they want you to call them, right? It's the most important email that he gets, you know. It's a new business contact. It's like getting a call from Craigslist, you know. It's a call you want to return. Although it depends on the business person. You know, I did a website for an electrician, and the guy said, yeah, I need a contact form, but make sure my wife doesn't get those because she's going to make me go out to all those jobs. I only want to work Thursdays and Fridays. You know? So in general, you want your business to thrive, but not everybody has the same business objective. So now Friday I go out with the guys golfing. Don't let my wife get those emails. So anyway. If you're smart, so big question. So what do you do with a contact form? The simplest thing is to send an email to a business owner, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. The smart thing is to document it in one or more ways, like put that record in a database. So if that email gets lost or gets in a spam folder or something, you know, you have a place where it's stored. You could also save it to a file. There's a lot of things you could do with PHP. You could save it to MySQL. You could append a line to a text file. Although on the JC server, the file I/O capabilities of PHP are turned off. Does that make sense? If you use Bluehost or you use Sonic, you could use PHP to write to a file. On the JC server, they just don't allow us to do that. They don't give us the permissions to allow PHP to edit a file. We could do MySQL. So in this class, we'll learn how to update a MySQL database. And I'll show you how to do a text file. We just can't do it on the JC server because it's for security reasons. They don't want you. It would be you could write a loop in PHP, add a new line to this file, and you could blow out everybody's disk space in less than a second. And people have done that in the PHP, never in one of my classes, but in the PHP class. So they turned that off at the JC. So, and that's just for security reasons. You could blow up Sonic if you want. No, I think there's things that prevent that also. But anyway, we want to send an email. So one of my goals was to complete this. We might not get to all of it, but at least let's get to the simple fact of sending an email. And then we might need to revisit just a little bit of this next week. So I could show you how to now, we have an array with all the services. We now in PHP have to, again, iterate through that array and pull them out and put them into the email. And it's not a hard process, but I'll show you how to do that. But first, let's send the email. So let's go back to our code, and we have a customer name. So sending an email is super simple in JavaScript. I mean in PHP. You literally have a function called mail, and it takes 4 arguments, 4 pieces of data separated by commas. It takes a to, it takes a subject, it takes a message, and it takes headers. And that command will send an email. Each one of these is now a variable, and now I've got to create these variables and add values to them. But that is literally all you need to do in PHP to send an email. And if you wrap this in a for loop, what do you got? Span. Exactly. If you wrap in a for loop and say from 1 to 1,000,000, send this email to random addresses, you've got a PHP spam bot, right? Which don't do. So let's do this. Let's do, let's assign these variables. So 2 is going to be equal to my address, right? So let's make it Peretz .edu, right? Subject, we could also make it static, right? Because all these subjects are going to be the same, at least at this point. So let's say the subject of the email will be, I need a gardener, right? So Joe is going to wake up every morning and he's going to get all these emails in his inbox. I need a gardener, call me, and he'll know that those are coming from his website. You really probably should put contact form or whatever so he knows where it's coming from. But that does the trick. So we have the 2, the subject. Now we're going to create a message. So let's just do message. And all of these are just strings, essentially. The message is going to be equal to needs a gardener. So that's a string, but what I want to do is append the customer's name to that string. Right, so I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to put a dot. A dot, a period in PHP is the operator for adding 2 strings together, which is called concatenation. Very good. So this print R was just a debugging step. I could blow that away now. I don't need to do that anymore. Right? Now I'm going to send an email. The only thing I don't have is headers. Right? Headers kind of make your email, without it, your email looks like it's coming from Apache. You know what I mean? It doesn't have a reply to. And it really doesn't have a from. The header, it contains a from. So it's pretty easy to write the header. It's hard to remember it, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go type in PHP mail. And that will bring me to the manual, the PHP manual for mail. And usually what I do when I'm doing email or anything in PHP, I'll just grab this, because this has the basic code that I want. You see, I'm basically using this pattern right here. This whole pattern is what I just created. But this I couldn't remember. So I'm just going to copy this, go back to my code, paste that, and apply the changes that I need to make. Obviously, I want it to come from myself. Where would this, if this was Joe's business, I would put, joegardener.com or whatever, It doesn't really matter. There doesn't have to be an email address with this. There does have to be an email address with this if you want somebody to reply to it, right? But here I'll do the same thing. And this PHP version, I'm just going to leave in there. And then I'm going to save this and put it on the server. And then I am going to get rid of all that debugging stuff and just bring up my page. And when I'm going to put my name in here, this is a test. And remember, the email is simplified. I'm only going to get the name data at this point, right? And I send this. There was more of a delay in getting the done, right? Why is that? Because it waited until the email got processed, right? There was stuff going on the server for the first time. So it took a little bit of time for the, remember it's asynchronous. It doesn't get done until the PHP program is done processing. So when you jump over to another site, please put the URL in the notes. Good point. I will try. Usually I just Google and I tell you what I'm Googling, and that's how I find those sites. Okay, let me log into my email. And, hey, I got an email. This is a test, needs a gardener. Remember, this is a test was what I typed into the name. So we basically did the round trip. We got, I'll go back. You want to see the code? We basically, what did we do? We created a form. We added it to an existing page. We added a special spot in an existing page into a modal dropdown or a modal pop-up window. We created the ability to grab the data from that form using JavaScript and put it into a JavaScript object. And then we used Ajax to send that to make a request of a PHP server page, actually a PHP server program. We passed the data to that PHP server program. That PHP server program took that data, inserted it into an email, and sent the email. And that is basically a state-of-the-art contact form. The only thing you would want to add, well, there's a lot you can add to it. More data, more processing, you could add algorithms, you could add a bunch of different questions to ask. The only other thing that you probably need to be aware of in this type of thing is, one, validating the data that's coming in, which in a contact form is not very important. If you get a bad email address or a bad phone number, it's not the end of it. It was a bad lead anyway, probably. You know what I mean? Validation really matters if you're working on a form that's doing a transaction. Like on Amazon, if it's looking for an address and you put in something else, mother's maiden name, you want to make sure that that is correct. So that's something, validation is something that we could talk about as we get deeper into PHP and forms. The other thing is spam control. It's very easy for robots, for programs, even programs written in PHP, to go around and look at all websites and look at all pages on all websites and try to find forms and try to submit them and to figure out how to do so. And you'll get a lot of, if you put this up on a website, within 2 weeks you're going to start getting contacts from Russia and from all of these places that make absolutely no sense. So you would need spam control. There's a couple of ways to implement that. You could do it on the server. You could say, if this doesn't look like a real contact, throw it out. Don't send an email. Or you could put something on the front end, like a CAPTCHA that a robot can't figure out. An extra field that only somebody who can read the screen can figure out. Have you ever seen a CAPTCHA? You know what I'm talking about? Those little weird things that are hard to read? You could do a yes or no button. You could do something simple like type in your name or whatever. Who's the current president of the United States? A robot can't usually figure that out. Well, usually they're not written smart enough to figure out a question like that. So there's different ways you could deal with spam. We probably won't go through implementing a CAPTCHA. Programmers like them. Users don't like them very much. But we could go through some validation techniques. And what we'll do next week is we'll revisit this, at least in the beginning, to go through how then to get that array of services out in PHP. Do we have time to do that? No. So we'll do that next week. So this was a lot. This was a big, I wouldn't say it's a big chunk of the class, but this is probably one of the top 3 or 4 things that I think one of the top 3 or 4 techniques that this class should be about. And you've learned a lot of that. You've learned what I call kind of the round trip, getting data to a server and processing it. Any questions?
What is the RN?
These RNs are carriage return new line. So they're special characters that basically are saying this string has multiple lines, because you need multiple lines in the header. It's just the way the header is set. Any other questions? No exercises. Yes. Create a contact form. Add things to it. Make, try to deal with different data. Like, one thing you might want to do, here comes the question, add like a date picker. Remember we did that? And figure out how to get a date value from the form into an email and send it. So, look, little things like that would be a fun thing to do for a exercise. Questions at home, where you could give it a new for a new line. That's correct. So this is return and a new line. Can you put a rough map up on the home page for the whole process? I could. I don't know about a rough map, but I could kind of do a step-by-step. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, guys. See you next week. Good class. Thanks for your time.
When is midterm?
The midterm, good question. Oop, the when is the midterm?
There's no such thing as midterm because it's not on your schedule. It does not because if it's not on the schedule.
Yeah, it is. It is on the schedule.
That's right.
It is? No,
I don't know.
look at it.
You have to look deeper. Did I just close? What? You have to look deeper. So here, give me a second. Just to show you that.
It's not on there. It's 20 seconds, but it's not on the schedule.
Yeah, it's on there.
It doesn't exist.
I don't know why I closed that window. I have to open it up again. Yes.
How do we know what the final format is?
This is one. So, a couple of things. I should have said this before. So, I think the midterm, you have to go kind of looking for it. It's going to be midterm exam. So it's March 13th. It's it's in the exercises for. So there's a midterm, and the final is right here. It's going to be, I don't know. I have to make up these questions for. Yeah, they're both exams.
Oh, wait. There is a final as well as a final project?
There's a final exam, a final project, and a midterm exam. There's 3 things you get graded on.
Well, what about these exercises?
You don't get a letter grade for the exercises. You get the satisfaction of accomplishing. Okay, so what was the question? I was just looking at something else. What was it? Midterm? Oh, final project. Okay, so now check out this. You could go to your profile at this point, and you could enter a proposal for your final project. That part is working. And
But don't you have a guideline somewhere?
so yeah, I will post some suggestions, but it's ultimately up to you, and you could work in teams. Yeah, I just, you don't have to write a whole page, but in a paragraph say, I am going to create a website that has a database of recipes, and a user will be able to go to the page and look up an ingredient and get all the rest, something like that. You know what I mean? Some kind of database-driven website example that you will then go throughout the class.
Oh, you can.
It could be, I'm going to build a website for Joe the gardener. and it will have a contact form, and it'll have a cool canvas wavy thing. But that would be my project, not yours. But that would be an example. And it would probably need like 4 or 5 other things. It's going to have a contact form. It's also going to have a database with everybody who's ever contacted him. It's also going to have a way where I can give somebody an appointment. You know, they could, when they contact me, suggest a couple of days, and I'll get back. You know, some kind of interactive thing. So it doesn't have to be original. No, it doesn't have to be original. It doesn't have to be something that nobody's ever done. It could be a subscription system, like I showed you earlier. When we get to the database part of it, the reason why, I can kind of put some examples out there now, but until you see what's possible with a database, it's kind of hard to put it all together, you know what I mean? So next week we'll start exploring the MySQL database and how to work with that, and then I think you'll start to get ideas on what you can do for a final project. So I am going to pause. Anything else we should know about? So the submitting exercise thing is still not working. I'm working on it. So at this point, you do not need to submit exercises yet.